Yeah, my sister confided in me that she's dating some Asian guy. And that's really pissing me off. 'Cause she's dated other guys and that's not gonna happen.
Sounds like that makes your sister happy.
Sounds like it gets me pissed off because that ain't gonna happen. That's my family. She's not gonna mess with my family like that.
Do you not feel your sister has a right to have her own family and be happy however she sees fit?
I don't care what my sister thinks. This is what I think, and that ain't gonna happen. And I'm do whatever I can to stop it.
So you're telling me that you think your sister has to live for you and make you happy?
My sister's gonna do what I say she does, and that's just it. If you don't know what's best, stick to your own.
But what is your own?
I'm a Latino, and that's just it.
Richard, let's start with you. You were the client. What was going on?
Well, I know I was being real hostile, but one thing that I felt that I guess my anger wasn't acknowledged. And I think if my anger was acknowledged, I think that would have really made me think. I mean, if she would have just mentioned anything about my anger, maybe it would have toned me down a bit, and I would have been able to communicate with her.
Good point.
The actual interracial relationship, for me, wasn't the issue. The issue was the hostility and being confronted, you know, in such a hostile way.
I didn't think like he was gonna attack or anything like that. He just seemed like he was really, headstrong about what he believed.
As I'm listening to him, I was very impressed with how much energy he had about being concerned about his sister. There's a whole other way of looking at it, rather than just seeing, there's a guy being mad, he might blow. Here's a man who has a lot of concern about his sister, regardless what the issue is at this moment.
What, if any of you, thought he might act out and he might do violence to some of the guys that she's dating? Do you see any ethical obligation there?
Actually, I think as a counselor, I would have said, well, okay, tell me, what is it that you're thinking about doing? So actually confront it and bring it out in the open. If he was thinking of doing something, you'd know, and then you'd be able to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Simply saying, you keep saying, I'm going to take care of it.
Right.
What do you have in mind?
I think there's a stereotype, too, that because, in certain cultures, African American, Hispanic, or whatever, that they're violent and they're going to do something really terrible. And, I think that's something that, I think we need to be careful about.
I'm really glad to bring that up, because I was going to ask the question, would it have made it different if you had a Caucasian client or a client that's more like you sitting there saying, I'm going to take care of it? Would you have been as concerned? Would you have suspected violence? You know how subtle the kind of responses can be and that show a bias and a stereotype?
And then what if you have been a person that's been battered, and then you're being confronted with this person that's like your batterer, who is not hearing anything, is not going to hear anything, nothing is going to be rational. Then as a counselor, you kind of lose sight of everything else around you.
I think you bring up an excellent ethical issue here, because if because of your own issue that's unresolved or undetected, you can't really be there for the client because you're hearing all sorts of things like what this person represents and reminds you of, then you may find all ways to skirt around his anger because you said you really didn't address that. You were intimidated by it. I think that's an ethical issue. I think your client has a right to the best in you and not to protect him or to get away from the anger or to calm him down.